This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them East.
And we're here back again for another Onside Kick, the NFL football podcast here on Most Valuable Podcast. If you are returning as always, again, thank you for your undying support. If you are new to the show, welcome in. I hope you enjoy the show today. And Mark, we got some big news to talk about today. Some big Patriot news that went down last week. We're a little bit behind the buck with it, but Julian Edelman goes down. We've got a rookie quarterback in Deshaun Kaiser that is going to be getting the start week one. One of them was bound to, whether it was Mitch, Deshaun, or Deshaun. And then the biggest story of the week, and we'll get right into it. Matthew Stafford got a brand new contract. He is now the highest paid player in the NFL. And this begs the question, Mark. Does Matthew Stafford deserve to be the NFL's highest paid player?
So it's an interesting question, and one that I think a lot of people immediately jump to when they are seeing this big number here and this big contract extension. Because everybody knew that, Derek Carr got his, and immediately people were like, wow, Derek Carr getting this huge one, the young gun. And then like, well, at the same time, you know that Kirk Cousins will get one. Mm-hmm. We knew that Matthew Stafford was going to get one. People were just kind of looking at all these, the next one up, essentially. Mm-hmm. And to me, Matthew Stafford is one of those where it's like, you got to kind of ask the question of, like, do you really think he's one of these absolute top guys? And I don't want to put him down, but he's not necessarily, if we're going to break it into tiers, he's not one of those tier one quarterbacks that has Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. Like, I don't put him in that category. I'll put him in the second category, tier two. But the hard thing is, before the Lions fans hit send on that comment that they just typed up, is that this is the way it goes. This is the going price for a quarterback, and Matthew Stafford is going to be better than at least 20 other quarterbacks in the NFL, if not 25 other quarterbacks in the NFL. He's going to give you better odds than all those type of guys. And there are so many teams that would be willing to pay Matt Stafford the money that Detroit is going to pay him to be their quarterback because they have quarterback woes and Matthew Stafford is an upgrade. No doubt about that. The problem really just comes down to, I guess, the going price for the quarterback. You don't have a choice. They have so much leverage at the quarterback position because they are such an instrumental part of the offense. If the quarterback's not good, the offense isn't good. To where, a team can't say no, essentially, to that. They can say a little bit less, maybe, but they're going to have to pay big bucks. And when somebody else comes up, they'll be the next highest paid quarterback. That's just the way it goes now.
Well, and that was my first thought as well of is he like, and it's one of the same things. You don't want to disrespect Matthew Stafford because if he was my starting quarterback right now on the Vikings,
you'd be happy.
I'd be happy with Matthew Stafford. My only question is with Detroit, and it's kind of like I'm going to compare it to Game of Thrones in a sense. A character that many people don't like in Littlefinger, he would always
One person in this room loves Littlefinger.
Yeah, he would always play the game of, and this shouldn't be a big spoiler. This is like past seasons. But he would always play the game of what gets me on the Iron Throne. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make sure that comes true. And if I'm the Detroit Lions, you look at it and you got to ask yourself one question if you are Lions management, and that is, what's going to win me a Super Bowl? Does Matthew Stafford win me a Super Bowl? On his talent alone, yes, I could see Matthew Stafford as that quarterback that helps a team get to the Super Bowl. Notice how I said there, helps a team get to and win the Super Bowl. He's not going to be the main guy who does it. He's going to need the weapons around him. Also, he's going to need the coordinator. It's not like you can pair him with any coordinator in the world and have him do well. Also, I kind of like, this is the thing with Matthew Stafford. What kind of talent is he going to run into? Because the big thing I thought of was, okay, he's 29. There's another quarterback in this division that has seemed to get the better of the Detroit Lions every single time they play. Every single time. And it's a team that both you and I cannot stand. And that's the Green Bay Packers. You can't stand them, but you got to respect them, kind of a thing. Where it's like, you know what? You guys have been good. You guys have just bested us year after year. And the Lions are no different. Are you going to be able to get past Aaron Rodgers? That's my question. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is, I want to say 4 years older than Matt Stafford right now. Yes, Aaron Rodgers, his contract is up. I use air quotes there in 2020 when Matthew Stafford would be turning 32 in this deal. However, like you said before we recorded the podcast, there's a good odds that Aaron Rodgers gets a contract extension either this year or next year, or he's going to play further on past that 2020 season. And the true question is, do you believe that Matthew Stafford can help you overcome Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers? I say no. I say I'll give it to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Well,
every
I
time.
mean, Matt Stafford is such an important part of the offense. I mean, he essentially is the offense, especially now that Calvin Johnson, the Megatron, is gone and he's retired. Matt Stafford is this offense. They haven't had a running game in a long time. I mean, the defense is good, but the defense is not as good as it used to be. So you just look at it and say he needs help. He needs a run game. He needs to have a top wide receiver again. He needs that defense to just be a little bit better. And, you know, these are things that definitely are doable for the Detroit Lions. They just kind of have been having trouble getting it all together and had some discipline issues and things like that. We all remember all the Sioux stomps and things like that. You know, if I'm just going to compare Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers, of course I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But this team can be good enough to get past the Green Bay Packers, because the Green Bay Packers are not a complete team either.
No.
And that's really what the Lions need, is they need to build the whole team. And unfortunately, it becomes difficult when you throw tons of money at just a quarterback.
But you have to.
You don't have a choice, yeah.
And it comes down to how many times do we see, and I mean, the Redskins are going to go through it this year, to where
they've been going through it for like 3 years now.
Not just that, because they have a competent quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and I want to get to him at the tail end of this because this affects him. But the Redskins are going to go through that, and other teams have as well. Look at the 49ers, per se. I mean, when they had Colin Kaepernick and Jim Harbaugh, that was that's a connection that's Super Bowl worthy. They lose Harbaugh, Colin Kaepernick kind of gets fallen out of that starter role. Look at where they are right now. When teams look at the Miami Dolphins. Like, although they had Ryan Tannehill, which some people would say, Ryan Tannehill lower on the level of starting quarterbacks, Miami Dolphin fans are confident in Ryan Tannehill. Teddy Bridgewater for the Vikings. Now, I'm a Minnesota fan, really like Teddy. But there might be some people outside of the Minnesota fandom that aren't too high on Teddy Bridgewater as a whole. But in the fandom, you're like, yes, he's my quarterback. And that's what the Lions needed. They needed to say, we need to keep this quarterback here, because if we lose him, we're going back to the drawing board. And really, to find that quarterback, it's almost impossible to find the next Tom Brady, the next Aaron Rodgers.
You look at how
you got to hit.
You look at how many teams draft those quarterbacks and they don't ever even get to play. Nonetheless, get to be a bust. But really, for
look at the Browns.
Yeah, really for a team, you kind of have to. You have to have one or two things happen. You have to either pay a quarterback who's going to do well, and Matthew Stafford is definitely up there for quarterbacks, or you pull Seahawks and you build the rest of the team, and you get really lucky that you drafted Russell Wilson and he's a Super Bowl quality quarterback. You know, not a lot of teams can do that. I mean, when we're talking about these teams like the Texans, who a lot of people were saying they probably are one quarterback or a little bit more than a quarterback away from actually competing. The Browns and the Bears, who got quarterbacks, I put Kaiser in there because he's going to start now, are not quite in that one quarterback away situation, so they don't get that. But if you can be a team who, was the Seattle Seahawks, who people were not high on them before that defense became really good in, 2012, I think. people were not high on that defense, but they had all these good draft picks, and they got the right coaching staff in there, and they got the right attitude in there. And then Russell Wilson came around as well, and all of a sudden everything, just the stars aligned, and it was perfect. And you don't get that very often either. It is so difficult to draft a good team. As dumb as that might sound, it is so difficult to draft the right players.
Look at the Patriots, to where they are, like, to me, the gold standard. And really it's a testament to Bill Belichick, because he's one of the only ones that, like, we talked about it between us and the Fast Break guys of like, hey, you know what? Because Doc Rivers was kind of released of his front office roles, and Sean asked the question, what kind of coach could do both? Bill Belichick. That's who could do both. And they've created a culture to where it's like they have their team, they have their culture, and the Lions, I'm not saying they're anywhere near that, but when it comes to Matthew Stafford, the one thing I wanted to throw out is the not ownership, but the upper management and coaching. He hasn't had the best. I mean, he had his first, 2-3 years in the league. He had Jimmy Schwartz as his head coach. Let's be honest. Jim Schwartz, great defensive mind. So not even an offensive-minded guy, more of a coordinator than a head coach. Like, he's the guy now that he's a coordinator. It's like, wow, he's a good coordinator. I know he was one that we talked about a lot for different head coaching jobs, but let's be honest, he's more of a coordinator. That was the first 3 years Stafford had him. Stafford, under that system, under the whole Jimmy Schwartz offense, top 5 passer in the league. 2 or 3 was where he was sitting 11, 12, and then 13. Come 2014, he is now the 9th. He was then the 9th when it came to passing yards. That's how I'm getting this top 10. He was 9th in 2014, moved up to 8th. That was the first year of our boy Jim Bob Cooter. And then in 2016, this past year, he was 6th in passing yards. So, I mean, he's gone through a lot. And even the coach right now, like, there have been, like, people are like, oh, Jim Caldwell's a good head coach. He went to a Super Bowl with the Colts, to where my kind of reaction to that is, yeah, Peyton Manning's a pretty damn good quarterback.
He is, for sure. And even with Matt Stafford having his couple injury years before we really started looking at that. But, to me, it comes down to this. I mean, there are very few teams that are sitting there saying, if I could swap my quarterback with Matt Stafford, I would not do it. Very few teams. I mean, you got basically the Saints, you got the Packers,
the Raiders.
You got the Patriots, and I'm going to exclude the young quarterbacks out of here. So we'll take the Bears out, the Houston Texans, those type of teams. There's very few teams out there who are really going to say, no, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. So with that being said, Detroit's not going to sit there and say, yeah, it's too much money. We'll go back to having nobody. There's no way that the Detroit Lions would do that. They had to pay up. It's the unfortunate realities of the league. That's really what it comes down to.
Right now, I've got, out of all the teams in the NFL, 9 teams that if I was their manager, their GM, their owner, I would not take Matthew Stafford over them.
You said 9?
9. And they are the Raiders, I would take Derek Carr. The Chiefs, I would take Alex Smith.
I would not.
I would take Alex Smith just because of, like, in that kind of, I don't think that Matthew Stafford would necessarily fit that offense.
He would make it a lot better if he was on that offense.
The Chiefs are towards the bottom. Let's say they're on the line. The Seahawks, I wouldn't take Matthew Stafford over Russell Wilson. Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Eli Manning, and then Tom Brady and Big Ben.
Eli Manning
he's the interesting one.
He's one of those ones where it's borderline as well. And I know he's got the 2 rings, but he has had some great teams.
And I was going to, when you were kind of going through some of them, that was the one I was going to throw out. Would you take Stafford? If you were the Giants, hypothetical.
Yep.
If you were the Giants, would you swap Stafford for Manning straight up if you could?
I probably would. Taking the rings out of consideration, because that's a team effort. I probably would.
Well, I mean, you're never beating the Patriots. You're losing your automatic Patriot killer.
Which is unfortunate. But, yeah, just because I just don't necessarily trust Eli Manning decision-making. He is a hell of a quarterback, but those decision-making question marks are too high. And not that Matthew Stafford hasn't thrown his fair share of interceptions, but the last 3 years, 12, 13, and 10, I'm pretty happy with that.
And this 10 was a career low for him.
Yeah.
And that's another...
Well, besides that one where he only threw one, but he only played 3 games, so that doesn't count.
That's another thing to look into. The first 3 years under Jimmy Schwartz, his highest interception numbers at 16, 13, 19. Get that whole coaching staff out of there, 12, 13, 10.
Yeah, he's also throwing the ball less.
Yeah.
Now.
Another thing that I really like about Stafford is basically since 2011, he's played every single game. Not even played, just started every single game for you guys since 2011.
Sure. And, there was the injury. He was kind of getting the rep of being the injury-prone quarterback because his first 2 seasons he got hurt. And then since then has played fine. But yeah, I just think that Matthew Stafford, I'm not surprised he's got this big contract. But people want to make a big deal about how Derek Carr was the highest paid quarterback. Well, not anymore. People want to make a big deal about how Matt Stafford is the highest paid quarterback. Pretty soon, it's not anymore. That's just the way it goes.
Well, we were talking about, what was it? Oh, shoot. Was it Andrew Luck before Derek Carr was the highest paid quarterback? It was either him or Cam Newton that was the highest paid. And it was like, oh, there's Derek Carr to kind of spoil everything. Yep. I want to ask you 2 questions to kind of end this off. The first one deals with Matty Stafford. The second one, kind of how this affects Kirk Cousins, because I want to hit that before we kill this segment. The first one is, now that he has this deal, he is locked up until he's like 35. Do you think the Lions will win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford under this contract? Do you think there's a chance that they get to and win a Super Bowl?
Well, I'm sure there's a chance. I don't think that Detroit's going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon. That coaching staff, well, not necessarily that coaching staff, but their coaching history and their general management history has not been too kind to make me think that they will, in fact, win a Super Bowl. I would not be entirely surprised if they are in the running and if they do make it happen, but I'm not expecting it.
No, I'm on the same side. And I know I mentioned earlier the whole, you got to get through the Green Bay Packers if you want to, because to me, that's your biggest roadblock right now with Matthew Stafford. His name is Aaron Rodgers, and the last time you guys won a game was 2015. And I know Lions fans, if they have not already, when I mentioned it, they have now. They're going to mention the Hail Mary game that happened in Detroit in Ford Field.
Which I think is a little bit fair. I think it's a little bit fair, but you still lost. A loss is a loss.
A loss is a loss, plus, that's what Aaron Rodgers does.
But I get it. I get it, guys. I get it.
I was on the same side of watching that game, what the fuck just happened? Did that really just fucking happen? And since, I'll just say the 2010s, basically, since Aaron Rodgers has been with the Packers, you have won a total of 4 times. 3 of those times have been in Detroit. 1 of those times has been in Green Bay. The rest has been the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. And, that's basically the entire of Matt Stafford's career as well.
Yeah.
We'll say 3 losses, because that 4th one was in the 2010 season when he was injured. But they're your kryptonite. They're the ones you're going to have to get over. And until I feel like until Aaron Rodgers moves on and sails off into the sunset, I feel like the Green Bay Packers are just going to be that big brother to the Lions, slapping Matty Stafford's hand away from that Super Bowl title. Because I know Lions fans also are going to bring up the playoff game. I think it was against the Cowboys, where they're like, we were robbed in that game. You might have been robbed in that game. I'm not going to say you are, but really, playoff success has to be put into it as well. Last question I want to ask with this, though, kind of to just segue it out. What do you think this contract means for Kirk Cousins, who is also going to be getting... Yeah. Basically, he's getting paid in the offseason.
Essentially, Kirk Cousins is our next highest paid quarterback, is really what it comes down to. Unless he really blows this season, if he's still in the 4,000 range, if he can crank it up to a little bit to that 5,000 range, which he was not that far off
Maybe make the playoffs?
Then, yeah, I definitely think he's going to get himself that big contract somewhere. Someone's going to pay him. I don't know if it's Washington, but someone's going to pay him big.
I'm going to ask you this. Look into your crystal ball, Mark. You got your crystal ball in front of you?
No, I do not, but I will try.
What are your odds?
Uh-huh.
Because let's be honest, the favorite right now for Kirk Cousins is the San Francisco 49ers because of Kyle Shanahan being there. What's your crystal ball that they're the ones that shell out the big money to make him the highest
Well,
paid?
I mean, it's really difficult to say, and it's a little silly to make the prediction right now because we don't know the draft order.
I'm just saying a percentage. That could change.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's a little silly to say right now. If I had to say right now, I don't know, 50, because there's a lot of teams that are going to be going for him. The Jets are going to need a quarterback. It's like we said, San Francisco, Arizona very well might need a quarterback. Who knows what will happen there? The Jaguars will need a quarterback. Let's see how well Jay Cutler does because they might think there's greener pastures somewhere else.
Past Ryan Tannehill.
In Miami. There's a lot of teams, the Buffalo Bills, that are going to need quarterbacks. A lot will pay, and we don't know the draft order yet.
Well, and this is where I want you guys to come in. Let us know what you guys think. Also, before I do this, you brought up the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who was right? Who was right about Blake Bortles? I believe it was a Mr. Ricky Widmer and Mark Weber who were right about Blake Bortles. Remember when we did that kind of what's the future for Blake Bortles, and we kind of ragged on him?
He's still the starter.
We kind of ragged on him, and we got shit for it. But let's be honest, his time's probably going to come to an end.
His team's ragging on him too.
Yeah,
so.
his team's ragging on him too. But let us know what you guys think about Matthew Stafford's contract down in the comment section. What does this feel? And Lions fans, I want to know your kind of optimistic looking through the blue tinted glasses that you guys look for. Do you honestly believe that you guys could either be in a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl within this contract extension with Matthew Stafford? Let us know down below in the comment section.